we'll kick off with a little bit of an introduction into talking about unmasking affiliate fraud and how to safeguard your affiliate program and eliminate fake sales. So a really, really interesting subject that's quite close to my heart, because in this industry, we have a lot of fraud, and I really want to get behind the nuts and bolts of how to spot it, prevent it, and carry on scaling my affiliate programs for the clients that we work with. So let's take 45 minutes to turn our phones off, get rid of our emails, not get distracted, because we're talking about affiliate fraud. We will get kick-started with welcoming you all here to this webinar today. Now, I know the picture on the right seems to show a very relaxed affiliate manager, but if you've had to deal with fraud, believe me, you're not that relaxed. So this is all about affiliate managers who've got big targets, who want to scale, who don't want to be victims of incessant fraud, which is something that we all have to be dealing with in this industry. But we're going to tell you today how you can get around that, how you can spot it, and some of the tools that you can use to actually prevent it. So when you're scaling really big affiliate programs, or when you're trying to scale a program from kind of zero to hero, sometimes fraud is something that you have to deal with, because you're in the business of accepting all the traffic. But we're going to talk you through some of the things that you can look out for, some of the things that will alert you to when fraud is happening. And we definitely want to say, welcome, and you're in the right place if this is something that you're currently having to deal with. So my name's Kahn Johnston. I'm the founder of Affiverse. I've been in the affiliate marketing industry for 25 years, but this webinar isn't about me. It's actually about Rich. So if you want to find out more about me, you can check me out later. But without any further ado, I want to welcome the man on the screen, Rich Kahn, who's the founder of Anura.io. Rich, I'm going to invite you up now to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry, and why I like to refer to you as the king of fraud.
I appreciate it. So yeah, basically, I started my first, I should say, internet business in '93.
Wow.
It was a newsletter, and did a lot of different things in the space for a period of time, and kind of settled into building my own ad network, which had affiliates and clients. And I was using two different platforms that we had built to connect everybody. And in the very, very beginning, we launched a company in 2003. About 2004, I noticed some issues with the traffic, anomalies, let's call it, right? And I knew what it was. I had fought fraud before in my past, some other companies I was working on, and I knew what it looked like. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to solve fraud. I just want to be the guy that's going to build my network. I'm just going to go find another solution, bolt it onto my platform, and go about my day, because to me, that's the perfect product for what I needed. But in 2004 and 5, as I was looking, nothing existed. In fact, the first commercially available fraud solution didn't come out until like 2008-9 era. Wow. So I'm a developer. I've been writing code since I'm 8 or 9 years old. I actually wrote my first game when I was 9, got published when I was 12. So I was one of those guys. Coding just came easy to me. So I'm like, you know what? I can solve this problem. So I wrote code, solved the problem. First iteration of the code was under 100 lines of code. Piece of cake, simple. And it squashed the fraud and did a great job until it didn't. And then I realized, fraud is going to continue to evolve. So I had to continue evolving the platform. And we were just using it for our own platform. Like we didn't want to sell the platform. We didn't want to license it. We just thought it was good for us. But I started having clients say, hey, I want to be able to use your technology outside of your network because you're crushing it. But again, I want other channels of marketing, not just yours. And I need to be able to buy because I need the volume. And after the 5th or 6th or the 7th person asking, it's like, you know what, this might be a good idea.
Here we go. We're off.
We did in 2015 a year-long study on how we compared to other solutions, because I don't want to build another platform, another team together, build this, build it out, support clients if we didn't offer something special. So we did like a year-long study, found out that, oh, wow, we actually did a better job, and learned some interesting things that not all fraud solutions are created equal.
We're going to talk about that as well today, guys. It's a very important point.
And so we realized we had a better solution in our mind based on the things that we looked at and things that were important to us as an affiliate manager at the time. So we decided to roll it out. And when everything was said and done, it was 2017, we rolled out Anura as a standalone fraud solution. So now if you're that kind of person who just wants to focus on your business and just wants to bolt on a product, we now have that product.
It's available. And we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what Anura does later on.
Yep.
But I think the key thing here that strikes a chord with me is that this is a product built by a practitioner that knows how to run an affiliate program. So often you find products that are great, but they're designed by developers and not actually by the practitioners. And then there's always a disconnect between how the affiliate manager wants to actually implement and use that product in the day-to-day of the running of the program versus what the product's actually capable of giving and delivering. And so there's always iterations that need to happen because everybody takes a baseline product that solves a problem and then needs to customize it for the things that they potentially need in the vertical that they're in. So we'll talk a little bit about why Anura is such a powerful fraud detection tool. But first, I thought it was important to actually start the story and give a little bit of a backstory, because you have this history, and it's kind of important because it's not written down in textbooks anyway. But why does the affiliate marketing industry actually have so much fraud? Like, tell us where it's coming from and why it's currently happening, because in any other industry, fraud is kind of different to what we say fraud is, and we're going to talk about all the different types of fraud that is available in our industry as well. But first of all, let's set the scene for everybody listening here in terms of why they need to be aware of fraud and why it actually does have to be at the forefront of their minds, especially when they're trying to scale their programs.
So look at it this way, like, in 31 years of the internet, I've come up with, early on in my career, 2 truths of the internet. People don't read, they skim and scan. Right? And then, of course, if you find something, if they catch their attention with a title, then they'll read. But for the most part, people you send them a document that you spent weeks working on and curating and editing, and they're done with it in 30 seconds, right? They're not actually reading the full thing, but they're skimming and getting the major points out of it. And then if there's some interest, they'll do some more reading. So people don't read, they skim and scan. Number 2 is, if you pay somebody to do something on the internet, the cheaters are going to find a way to cheat the system. So the fraud we're talking about is affiliate-based fraud. You're paying your affiliates to drive traffic, to drive sales, to drive some action. And think of it this way, you got to look at an unscrupulous character to begin with, right? Because if you're a real player and everything else, you want to do things right. You want a long-term business. You're trying to build success and everything else. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people that are trying to skim your system. And what they do is they send traffic to you and they realize, oh, wow, I'm getting paid. I'm making money. Now, what if I doubled my traffic, tripled my traffic? Now, maybe they start off by buying cheap traffic. We all know cheap traffic is garbage, right?
Yeah.
They buy cheap traffic and it's like, oh, you're still paying me for this. Well, what if I did this? And what if I did, like, how far can I go before you slap my hand and say, sorry, I'm not paying you for that? And if you don't have any protection in place, they can push it pretty far. This is why the affiliate industry has an average fraud rate of 45%.
Which is incredible. Okay. Like, first of all, it's incredible because, and the reason why is also because of legacy platforms, I think, as well. So you've been in the industry 30 years. I've been in the industry 25 years. Where we came from to where we are right now has just been a series of like iterations on iterations. And what happens when you stick a whole bunch of plasters on a saw, instead of actually fixing the saw, the plasters eventually fall off. And so you've got all of these layers of tech that are speaking to each other, and the delay in time when all of them do, because not everything is in real time 100% right now, unless you're on the blockchain. There is loopholes, like there are unexpected loopholes that happen that enable people to push the needle a little bit and see how far they can get away with it. So 45%, if you could take right now, anybody listening in, so Carmen's got a couple of questions, which we'll get to in a minute. And if you have questions, pop them into the YouTube channel. But if you could say 45% of the money that you're currently paying out and what you think is good traffic, like, what would you do with that money? And that's a big question that I want you guys to kind of ponder on while we're talking through and dissecting and giving you the insights on what to look out for in fraud. So we've got this.
Instead of just saving that 45%, what if you invested that 45% in the 55% that's good traffic? How much faster would your company grow if that half a budget that's not performing was now performing?
And without fraud. Well,
exactly.
I mean, you can never cut fraud 100%, I think, but you can probably get it down to like 95 instead of out of 100, or maybe even closer. I don't know. Maybe
under 1% with most of our clients is that's our
goal.
But you got to understand, while no fraud solution is 100% effective, like that's what we can identify. Because somebody always asks, well, how much fraud are you missing? I don't know. If I knew I was missing it and I can identify it, then I can block it. So
that's true.
But we have a way of doing that. Let's a little further down the slide.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's let's actually talk a little bit about, because I think we come on to it in a minute, like we talk about what is fraud. Let's actually dissect it here. And we've got a little bit of images to talk through some of the types of fraud that you commonly deal with in your day-to-day life as part of the founder of Anura. So what's the most common fraud? What's the more sophisticated stuff that we need to be looking out for?
So let's just define fraud initially, right? So when we're talking about fraud, because when I started doing SEO for my website, and I started, hey, we're gonna tap the word fraud, marriage fraud, identity fraud, real estate fraud. Like there is so much fraud in the world. Like you have to define it. So for us, we call it ad fraud. So anytime you're doing some type of advertising, and an affiliate is you're paying them to drive traffic or actions to your site, right?
Yeah.
There's three basic vehicles that are used to create fraud. You're either using bots, which is the common word everybody knows, malware, right, running on your local machine, injecting all kinds of ad units and different stuff in different places, and human fraud farms. They used to be called click farms, but they do so much more than just clicking on ads now. So we just call them human fraud farms. So they're humans behind key systems that are designed to hide themselves, usually overseas, but they make it look like they're coming from the US or the UK or wherever your campaigns are running, so they can spoof their identity and IPs and stuff like that. So that's what fraud we're looking at. When you're looking at fraud, it's hard to say what's the most common, because it could be lead fraud, e-commerce fraud. It could be, somebody's doing email submits. That's kind of like a lead form. It could be you're paying someone just to drive traffic to your site because you pay $2 a click on Google, and you could pay an affiliate, 10 cents.
Yeah.
As you're doing all these different things, it depends what your actions are, but almost everything you're doing to buy traffic or to pay an affiliate to drive traffic or sales or leads to your site, there's a really easy way to to commit fraud. So let's look at an advanced way. Probably one of the most advanced ways of fraud, and I'll stick with lead gen because that's kind of that first icon you have up there. It's like generation, right?
This one here.
So hopefully you won't have any fraudsters on the line here right now, because
probably not. We've probably got genuine affiliate managers who are looking to stamp it out.
Perfect. So here's how easy it is. If your moral compass doesn't point north, here's how easy it is to commit fraud. So I sign up with, let's say Leanne sends me an affiliate link here, drive, and we're just going to use lead gen because, again, that's the one that's up there. Drive, every time you send me a lead, I'm going to pay you $10, 15, whatever it is, right? So I get that URL, that's the affiliate link, so it tracks all my stuff. I give it to a human fraud farm, which, by the way, I can license for like $9 an hour.
Wow.
I go and I buy, the more advanced ones are buying aged leads.
Yeah.
And so I buy aged leads at pennies on the dollar. I give that list of data to them, and I tell them, go to this link, fill out the form by hand using this information, and hit submit. So when it comes through, if you're recording the screen, checking transactions, doing data lookups, it passes the test. Within seconds, it goes to your call center, your client's call center. They pick up the phone and start calling. Well, first off, people aren't answering the phone because they're not expecting your call. So now you're racking up your call center resources. If you do get them on the line, they're going to swear up and down they didn't fill out a form, and they're right. Or they're going to tell you that I did fill out a form, and you're not even knowing that it was filled out months ago.
Yeah.
But again, aged lead converts at a far smaller point than a fresh lead that's generated today. So what all they're doing in that case is recycling an old lead, which you don't have consent for, and there's a lot of other stuff that gets involved with that. But here they just generated a lead. Now the question is, let's go back to the example. So a human fraud farm costs $9 an hour. Those leads you bought were pennies on a dollar. How many leads can one person fill out in an hour?
I don't know, maybe 20.
Yeah, maybe 20. So let's say we're making $10 leads. So I just made $200, cost me $9 plus some leads, and I made a good ROI. Now imagine if I had that person working 8 hours a day, or if I had a team of them working 8 hours a day. How much fraud can I commit and you won't catch it?
Well, before anybody catches it within a massive big program where you're just one affiliate of maybe 1,000 that are actively sending traffic, like that's easy ways to hide, basically, and not actually be legit. And the only time that an affiliate manager would legitimately pick that up is if there was a spike, like a crazy spike, or if they started to get feedback from the customer service team going, all of these leads that are coming in 2 weeks later, but like how much money have they made in the 2 weeks, and then they disappear and they're gone. Like you've paid them already and they disappear and they're gone. It might even take 4 weeks because of all of the latency that happens between when a lead comes in, when a lead gets verified, when it goes on to be, you know, maybe called, or when they have to make a deposit or whatever it is to activate, like that money's already been earned at a very high profit margin, as you've just explained. And that's just one kind of fraud.
Yeah.
That's not everything else that you're looking out for, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Now, you mentioned that roughly for you, as far as you can see across all the data that you look at and all the different clients that you're working with, there's roughly about 45% of the traffic that you think you're bringing in at a really reasonable commercial rate for your business could actually just be fraudulent. And you actually touched on that as well, the knock-on effect on all of the other departments. So you've got the customer service team that's going to have a whole bunch of work to do to validate and you know, strip out these leads, these inactive leads. You've got the cost of processing the leads that are coming in, because obviously if you're validating data, doing ID checks, depending on what industry you're in, you've got the kind of costs of the tools that have to do the volume of leads that are coming in. So it's not just in the affiliate team that you need to be worrying about fraud, because when that fraud comes in, it impacts other departments in your business as well, and the resource and costs and the impact on your profit margin. Because every affiliate manager, their task is to bring in new sales, to bring in new partners, to bring in new sales. But what you need to be looking at is that knock-on effect, not only in your own program ROI, but what is the actual ROI to the business as a whole when half the leads that are coming in are fraudulent. So give us some practical examples of some of the people that you've dealt with in your like tenure, and you know, you must have had some crazy stories. And let's get into some of the fun stuff, like the really cool stuff that you've uncovered. What's maybe one of the most outrageous fraud scenarios that you ever detected that you thought, wow, you didn't even know that that kind of fraud existed?
All right.
Just to give people a flavor.
I'll give you an example. And this is an older one, but I mean, we're catching them on a constant basis. But this is one that I personally caught before, like I said, because in the beginning I wrote all the code myself. And then obviously as we grew, we had to hire a team to take over. And I try to not get the details anymore, because I'm talking on webinars all the time. I'm talking to clients all the time. And I don't want to spill the beans on stuff. So while they give me the high level stuff, I don't want to know the details. So one of the ones that I caught, I call it the double click fraud. So what it was an affiliate based click program. So they were driving, affiliates were getting paid to drive click traffic into network and all this stuff. And if they would have taken one extra step and opened up multiple accounts and spread their volume across a bunch of affiliate IDs, it would have been so much more difficult to catch. But since it was all zeroed in on one ID, it was just, we were getting some customer complaints that, you know, they bought an exorbitant amount of traffic, like 80% of their traffic came from this one source. It wasn't producing results. We're trying to figure out what's going on. So we get a couple links, we start tracing it down, and you know, one of my ex-partners at this point, we're looking at this type of fraud. And this was the day, and this might be dating me a little bit. Remember when you used to click on a link, it actually used to make the sound click? Yes. So I don't know, some sites still do it for just a nostalgia, but for the most part, that's been gone for a while now. I don't know when it disappeared, but I kind of miss it. Anyway, so what was happening was we went to this affiliate site, and we had to go down a rabbit hole to find it. And my partner was just listening to music, so he had his volume turned up, and he shut the music up, and he was going around. We're both going on stuff, and all of a sudden he clicks, and I hear click, click. I'm like, did you click on 2 links that quick? He goes, no. And what happened? He goes, I don't know. So then we basically opened up our developer tools. We started digging onto the website, trying to find out what it was. If I say iframe, everybody knows what an iframe is?
Yeah, probably.
All right, so I'll go to technical. Okay, so just so you understand for this example, the way an iframe works is you pick a frame, and it's almost like having a web page behind it, and you're looking at a window to see that page behind it. And that's kind of like a visual effect of what an iframe looks like. So imagine taking that iframe. So let's say instead of a banner, you make it a 1x1 pixel, right? And then they pin that under the mouse pointer. So now as you're flowing through a website and you're doing different things, your mouse is literally moving on the page behind it through the iframe window. So if you're tracking, you know, user behavior, so you're not looking at, you know, robotic movements, and you're saying, no, this is a legitimate person. But when you clicked, they had their code set to slide the page up to a click URL. So when you clicked, you got credit for the click on top and the click on the iframe.
Wow.
And you heard click, click twice. So a click took place behind the scene. The page went to the advertiser, but the person never saw the advertising's web page, so there was never any performance there. And when we uncovered it, it was always easy to fix once we knew what they were doing. But it's like, hats off to that. That was very creative.
Very clever. I mean, and that just goes to show why fraud needs to be at the forefront of your mind, because it can be that clever. It doesn't have to be basic. It doesn't have to be all the known fraud. It could be really sophisticated new stuff that's coming up. And I think that's probably something that I'm quite concerned about, because with the technology that we're seeing in AI, like, what is the future of fraud? What does that look like? And the problem is that we have to only find it when we find it. Like, and that is why the data is so important. So that's a really cool story, actually, about looking out for fraud, because I would, 25 years in, would never have thought to think about something like that. And you wouldn't be able to see it in your standard dashboard of reporting either.
Yeah. In today's standard now, because you don't have the double click sound, probably wouldn't catch it.
No. So that's just a really good story on, how much fraud could be happening in your program. But I wanted to get down to some numbers, because I know you've got a lot of data and a lot of people here, and we will get to questions in a minute, guys. So thank you for popping them into the YouTube channel. But like, in dollar terms, because you said 45%, right? Roughly 45% is probably fraud, but how big of a problem is it really? Like, is it billions of dollars out of the billions of dollars that are actually going through the affiliate channel? Or does it really depend on the industry that you're working with? Is fraud higher in some industries and lower in others? Like, what's the real problem? Because I think people here, they're gonna like sit up and take note. Okay, I need to be looking at fraud. It's a problem, but what's the actual impact of it?
Sure. So let's just look at a global number. So you've got a number here posted from 2022. 2023 numbers are out. But just to give you an example, 2022, it was the first time as a global society we tipped over $500 billion in digital marketing spend as a total, all channels. That's the estimates that came in from some of the sites that we monitor. Of that, 100 billion was stolen from advertisers across all channels. So you take it 1 year later, 2023, we tipped over 600 billion as a global society, and we're still seeing about $125 billion being stolen. So when someone says, fraud, that's not happening to me, we have it covered, it's not a question of if you have fraud now, it's a question of how much fraud is getting through whatever system you have, right? So on this slide here, I've got some channels. So as we aggregate hundreds of clients of data and we look at it from different channels and we track it from different channels, we try to come up with an average, fraud fine for each channel. So like, everyone's like, oh, I'm clean. I'm buying from Google. I'm buying from Bing. It's all paid search. It's I'm buying from, could be I'm buying from social. I'm buying from Facebook. They don't have fraud. They all have fraud. These are some of the percentages that we have listed here. So paid search as a whole is about 15%. Like I said, affiliate marketing is only second to programmatic.
That surprises me that programmatic is as high. Like, I would have thought it would have been down in the 30% ratio, but
you want to know
guess why? Yeah, I'd love to know why, actually. Okay.
So here's the situation. If you go to buy programmatic, you go to a DSP, and if you ask them, what do you guys do for fraud protection? They're going to they have a speech. They're like, oh, we're using this third-party vendor. It's running in our pre-bid solution. We got it covered, so you only have to deal with it. So as a buyer, you're like, oh, they've got a certified solution running under the hood. I don't have to worry about it. So you don't think about it anymore, right? Here's what people don't understand, and this gets a little into the weeds, but as a certified solution, they don't call fraud. They call it IVT, invalid traffic. I think most people have heard of that term before.
Yeah.
The terms that they haven't heard is how IVT is classified, and it's classified in two distinct categories. One is called GIVT, general invalid traffic. That's your basic bots, data center attacks, things like that. And then SIVT, which is sophisticated invalid traffic, advanced bots, malware, human fraud farms. So you have these two classifications. So when you go to a programmatic display, everybody knows about the 100 millisecond RTB platform, right? They got 100 milliseconds to determine what they want to do, what ad's going to go in there and serve up the ad. Well, in that, they only have about 15 or 20 milliseconds to decide, is this fraud or not? So they use a pre-bid solution, which is an API endpoint. They pass an IP address, a user agent, and they look at to see, is this real or not? If it's real, they send it on. If it's not, they block it. The problem is it's only looking for general invalid traffic. Fraudsters know this. So fraud get past that by using sophisticated means like a human fraud farm or something else. So very few companies go and say, I need a third-party solution to track my fraud after the fact. But if you did, we're catching on average 50%. But I've caught DSPs with as much as 80% fraud.
Wow.
Because the person's not even looking at it, doesn't even consider it like a problem. And because they heard it was solved and they assume it was solved. But until they check themselves, they don't realize how much fraud is really getting past the general and valid traffic filter.
And there's so many like points that can make you question the value of traffic. Is my offer right? Is the commission that I'm paying the affiliate right? Is it, what are the reasons why this traffic isn't working for me? And that could take 3 to 6 months before you actually realize that it is just genuine fraud, especially if it's not being tracked individually and in real time and all the rest of it. So it does actually make my eyes open as to like just how much are we paying for that's actually legit, that can, make a purchase or deposit or whatever industry you're in. And we're enabling it by being ignorant to it.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I'm a movie buff. I love movies. Have you seen the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Catch Me If You Can?
Yes.
Okay, so it was based on a true story. And there's a section in there where he's a fraudster. He's writing bogus checks. But he knows the game, just like your affiliates. He knows that he can go into an area, write bad checks for 3 weeks, 4 weeks before it all comes back and they try to pinpoint where he is. So he knows he can hang out for 3 weeks in an area and just relax, pass bad checks, make money. And then by week 3, he's got to leave, go somewhere else because they're going to catch up with him. By the time they show up, he's already gone somewhere else. Just like your affiliates, right? Affiliates come in, they know that they get paid in 7 days or 15 days, and they can sit there and they know it's going to take you 3 months to find them. They can hang out under that same account, getting paid left and right, and then swap up and put up a new affiliate ID before they get caught. So by the time you catch them, they're already gone with your money. So again, they know the game really, really well. And I'll tell you this, most fraud that you can pinpoint, we will identify down to organized crime. So they're very well funded, very intelligent people that are doing everything they can to get around your system.
So you got to get in the game, basically. You got to get your head in the game and start playing the game faster than what your affiliates potentially can. So let's talk about.
I was going to say real quick. Is out of all those marketing channels, you got 8 marketing channels of marketing, right? Affiliate marketing, if you do it right, can be the most cost-effective channel out there. That's why everyone
100%.
does it. But you have to be diligent on your fraud cleaning process, on how you handle fraud.
Well, the other thing is that it's also the most competitive right now. So people are swapping budgets from programmatic, from email into affiliate because it is pay on performance. So it's 30 days delayed. Some programs even pay 60 or 90 days delayed. So before you even starting to look at fraud, like you could actually, shorten those time periods, catch it faster, and actually be spending that money more efficiently because it is it is after the fact. So if you're thinking about maybe changing the dynamics of where you're spending your money, like have a look at the screen right now and consider how much are you spending in paid, how much are you spending in social. I mean, the social number is quite interesting too, to be honest, the paid social, the 10% is fraud, because that can also be split over multiple different channels. So how do you track all of that when you've got TikTok, Facebook, everything else, all the other channels that you could be spending in? So it does become complex.
It gets crazy.
So let's talk a little bit about thoroughness, because we did talk about the fact that all fraud tools aren't the same. And I want to get into a little bit about what you guys do at Anura, why it's so different, and how you can get customers down from like 45% fraud down to almost 1 to 5% that's being kind of, maybe left on the table. Sure. So let's talk a little bit about like, what should we look out for? So, what do you want to be looking at when you're aware of the fact that there is fraud, and how do you kind of make sure that you're working with the right tools to make sure that you're catching it and bringing that down?
Yeah. So let's talk about, I talk to different companies. I've probably done over 1,000 demos of our product myself personally. So I want to know, and I still do them today because I still want to know. I'll do like 1 or 2 a week just to keep it in the beat of what's happening. And a lot of times I hear people like, yeah, no, we do this, we watch this, we watch the time to click. I'm like, yeah, this is all like 1990s, stuff you should be looking at. It's helpful because if you're catching anything, it's definitely something you want to block. But what about the more advanced stuff? So remember we talked about GIBT versus SIBT, right? So a lot of companies do both, but many companies out in the market just do a GIBT filter. Hey, just send me the IP address. Let me give you a beat on what's going on. So, okay, let me explain how that looks. So let's say you're at a Starbucks. You're on a shared IP address with hundreds of people walking through that store every day. So hundreds of people using that IP address, and you walk into the coffee shop because you want to hide yourself, right? You jump on their network to go do some affiliate fraud. And this way, so when they check your IP address, oh, it's a legitimate IP address. It belongs to a Starbucks. Let's say they got the user agent pass. Hey, it looks like it's coming from an iPhone 15. Looks pretty good. So you look at the data and you say, no, this is legitimate traffic. I'm going to pass it. That's the GIBT test, right? The SIBT test, and I'm not sure how everybody else does it, but how we do it is we collect over 800 data points on the user's environment that they're using to connect to your web asset, and look at that data. We know how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to interact with each other, so we can come up with a definitive answer. But I'll give you one example. So let's say that same person came in, and we understood that iPhone 15 didn't have a touchscreen. Would you think twice about that connection? Now, it doesn't mean it's definitively fraud, but it definitely says, hey, looks like there's a spoofing attack going on. So maybe I went with my laptop into Starbucks to hijack their IP address to commit fraud, but I don't want it to look like it's coming from my Mac laptop every connection. So I have a piece of software that rotates who I am. Okay, right now I'm an iPhone 15. Next time I'm an Android. Next thing I'm a Windows machine, and it just keeps changing it so it doesn't look like the same person over and over again. And how many people are looking at that level? And that's just one data point, right? That's the level. So you're talking about thoroughness. So in 2015, when we did that test to a year-end study of ad fraud, we wanted to understand what makes the difference between us and other companies. Does it make sense for us to move forward as our own company? And I tell everybody the same thing, and this is a big problem in the space. We buy software today on the sole purpose of trusting in what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Leanne, do you use Excel?
I do.
Okay, so you take a bunch of information, you plug it into the system, and when it spits out a number, you're going to make a business decision based on that.
100%.
Okay. When was the last time you checked to make sure it was adding up the columns correctly?
Never.
Okay.
To be honest.
So we live in a society where we buy software and we just trust it does what it's supposed to. But the ad fraud space is not like that. Look at affiliate platforms, right? You have an affiliate platform. It's supposed to track the payouts to the affiliates and how much you're charging your clients. If that software was wrong, nobody would use it.
It is often sometimes.
Okay. So people would migrate off of that once they realize, okay, this is screwing my business because it looks like I'm making money, but the bank's not showing it. Something's going on here. The same thing here. So what we found is that the average fraud solution in the marketplace is not only missing a lot of fraud, but at the same token, they're mismarking real people as fraudulent at a tune of 15% on average. So that means they're actually hurting your business. They're actually blocking real converting traffic. So what happens if you were to block 15% of the traffic by mistake from one of your affiliates, and your affiliate comes and says, hey, why are you blocking my traffic? You say, well, my fraud solution says I got to block you. Meanwhile, it's real traffic. What does the affiliate do? They go somewhere else. So now you're losing.
And they take all their business with them. Yeah, because your data isn't correct. I just want to get to Carmen's question because she's been waiting very patiently. So thank you, Carmen, for dropping that question into YouTube. And if anybody else has questions, just drop it into the YouTube channel because that's where we're taking questions today. She says, hi, I'm Carmen. I'm an affiliate manager currently managing affiliate programs in the e-commerce and SaaS space. A struggle of mine is automation in fraud prevention. Thanks. So I guess, have you got any tips for Carmen on how she can maybe identify fraud a little bit more quicker without necessarily having the budget to implement automation or have automation features? Are there any quick checks that you can, or quick tips that you can give her?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to follow the money. If you don't have the budget yet to put a tool in like us or something like that, you have to just follow the money and keep tabs on it. But it starts with bringing on the affiliate.
Yeah.
Have you vetted out that affiliate? It
So
helps.
let's get into that because, I mean, you touched briefly on 800 data points, and I wanted to talk about false positives, which you've just explained, which is where potentially 15% of the traffic that's coming could actually be negated out, and that's money lost for your business. But like, how do you ask about that? Like, when you're looking at a tool, to implement on your fraud, do you have to specifically ask them and say, do you have a mechanism to track false positives?
When you're looking at a tool, like you're looking at a third-party tool, know that the average solution out there has a 15% false positive rate. They're not going to quote that.
Okay.
So nobody cares more about your business than you. So run a test. Most of the solutions out in the marketplace, including us, offer some type of free trial. And we actually wrote an ebook on how to test a fraud solution.
Okay.
Because we're so confident in our ability to beat the other solutions in the marketplace. We want you, if not beg you, to try another solution so you know we're the right one. And what it is, again, I'll go back to lead gen just because it's a simple one. It's one of the examples that we have in our book, our ebook. And it's take 2, 3, 4 solutions that you're comparing against. Let them score the traffic all the same way. So a lead comes in, somebody fills out the form, they hit submit, have all 4 systems score that lead as good or bad, or whatever their scoring mechanism is. Then let it go to the call center, get the verified human data. Okay, so we come back and says, okay, this particular lead, I called up, let's say it's car insurance, right? Person said, yep, I filled out your form. I'm interested in saving money on my car insurance. What do you got? Great. You know that was a good lead. Did any of the solutions say it was bad?
Okay, so you literally have to A/B test and see who's giving you the most.
The best way to do it. Like for us, again, because it's us, and here's where false positives come from, because people always ask, well, I don't understand. Isn't it like Excel? Isn't it just all does the same thing? And no, it's not a simple thing like that. So here's what happens. Most fraud solutions report a scoring mechanism, a numerical scoring system from 0 to 100. And I've read many of their integration guides because they're publicly available. And they'll tell you that score is either a confidence score of fraud or a probability score of fraud. And they'll tell you once it hits 65 or 70, whatever their number is, go ahead and block it because we're confident that it's fraud. Which, if you really understand, it says we're 70% confident that it's fraud, or it's 70% probable to be fraud. What about the other 30%? It's probable real. So therein lies how false positives get created. For us, we only mark a lead as fraud or a visitor as fraud when we're 100% confident it's not real. And then based on client feedback, we're 99.999% accurate when identifying somebody as fraudulent.
Okay.
That is key, because if you're mismarking real people as fraud, you're going to hurt your buyer's journey. And I'll give you a quick example. One of our marketing companies, one of their writers that they had, she came across us. She was going to a very famous fashion site that she's been buying stuff from. They just upgraded the website, so she's assumed that they upgraded the fraud solution. She went into the system, checked everything out, went to hit submit button to buy the product, and it said, "Sorry, we can't sell to you. You're a bot." She said, "Wait a second, what the heck?"
I'm literally sitting here doing it.
She tried a bunch of things. She said she spent about a half an hour trying to get the purchase. So she said, "Screw this." Went to the competitor and bought it. You think she's coming back to that site?
Probably not.
Probably not.
That's a bad user experience,
So
and customers have to be centric to everything that you do.
Yeah, and that's an example of what false positives do for your brand. It's exactly opposite what you're trying to accomplish.
So the moral of the story is test, A/B test, get all the free trials, test and see what works for your business and what the risk profiling is. Yeah. Okay, so we've spoken about GIVT and SIVT, so I'm going to skip that because what I really want to do is talk about what does Anura do.
I was just going to go back one second.
Okay, should I go back?
One thing, when you guys are looking at fraud solutions, just so you guys know, and it's going to be a confusing market because there's like 80 to 100 different companies out in the marketplace.
Of course.
Detection. About 10 years ago, the MRC MRC, which is the Media Rating Council, and IAB, which is the Internet Advertising Bureau, everybody's familiar with them, came up with a set of standards and said, "This, if you're going to be a fraud solution, this is the standards that you should follow," and they upgrade it every quarter as fraud evolves. Then you have companies like myself. If I want to, I can get certified by a third-party auditor that I'm following those standards. So which is interesting, only 8 companies right now are certified to be following those standards. And the 2 organizations that do it is either the MRC or TAG, which is a Trustworthy and Accountability Group. So when you're looking for a fraud solution, to try to help you identify one quickly, focus on ones that are at least TAG certified against fraud or MRC accredited against fraud, because that'll narrow your search down to 8. At least you know they're following the basic set of standards that the industry has set. That's the important thing.
Which is important. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you've got questions, Eleanor, I've just seen your question and I will come to that in just a little bit. But if you have questions, please pop them into the YouTube channel, because I know Rich will be very happy to answer them. I'm putting you on the spot there, Rich. But
I love it.
What I wanted to do was just quickly go over how does Anura operate, just so that everybody can understand like what you actually look for, whether it's just affiliate traffic or if you can use it across media, across social, wherever it is that you can kind of, implement the fraud tracking solution or the fraud prevention solution. So can you just quickly talk us through what Anura does? And then we'll get into some suggestions and recommendations as well, because people have come here to learn from us and not just hear about the sales talk. So tell us a little bit about what it does.
All right. So this is confusing. It looks crazy because we do so much, but at the heart of what we do is we're a visitor firewall.
Okay.
We can tell you in real time if the visitor is real or if it's a bot, malware, or human fraud farm, right? And based on that, we have 4 types of general integrations. We have Anura Script, Anura Direct. Anura Direct is our GIVT filter. Anura Script is our sophisticated valid traffic filter. And then we have Search and Social Protect, which really, if you're buying from Google, Facebook, and TikTok and all those guys, we have special integrations for that. We have Ad Tag Protect. So if you're like in the space where you're taking tags and putting them on your site and you want to protect those tags, we have a special integration for that. But really, at the end of the day, if somebody says, I'm doing this and I want to make sure the person is real, we can do it. It's just a matter of how we fit in, and our team will actually, write the code, help you deploy it, double check to make sure it's deployed correctly and doing what it's supposed to do, and then keep tabs on it for you.
Okay. So you can find out more about Anura on their website, anura.com. And they have loads and loads and loads of really great resources. You can also find out a little bit about Anura on Affiverse's site, because they also publish a lot of their information onto our site too. So we'll link all of this in the replay on the website as well, and you can find all of it at your leisure. So let's kind of talk about steps to overcome, because we're coming to the end of the webinar now. We've spoken about how to identify it, what fraud looks like, the impact of what fraud is on your affiliate program. But let's give people some quick checkpoints that they should be looking at if they're maybe a little bit newer into the industry and didn't even know that fraud kind of exists. What are some of the checkpoints that you want to give people as pieces of advice to get to if they can't necessarily implement a fraud tool right now, which they really should, considering the numbers that we've shared here today? But give us some like basic tips that they can just go away and implement to just start to look under the bonnet and see, where can we actually limit the fraud coming in?
Well, it starts with onboarding the affiliate. So you need to know who your affiliate is. So like here you have check your social media connections. So on one of your podcasts, we were talking to somebody and they had a great recommendation. Like, this person's been in the space, and I wish I remember the name. I'm bad with names, but she's been in the space for like 10 or 15 years, 20 years, something like that. So when an affiliate comes in, she goes to their LinkedIn profile and says, well, how many shared connections do I have?
Yeah.
And if there's no shared connections, they're probably not well known in the space.
Yeah.
So it's an easy check to say, do they know? And if they know a bunch of people, reach out to some of the people that you're personally connected with and say, hey, do you vouch for this person? Are you working with this person? See what they get. And you'll be surprised. Just because they're connected doesn't necessarily mean they're good. I've done this. I've done this just historically myself a bunch of times, or 9 times out of 10, if I'm about to work with a new vendor, a new person, I quickly check to see who we're mutually connected with. I'll pick 1 or 2 people that I'm really close with and just, hey, what's your take on this individual? And that little check right there goes a long way. Because if they're in the space connected with a ton of people, but they really do bad things, and you can pick up on that with a few emails, this is going to save you headaches, right? The next is taking a look at the data. If you onboard them and you start sending that traffic down to your clients, don't send a ton of that traffic on a new person down to your clients right away, because if it's bad traffic, your client's going to shut off or have issues. Send a small amount of traffic. Talk to your client. How is this traffic performing for you? What's the back-end data look like? And that's going to take time. Again, follow the money, see where that money leads, and use that to build up your confidence in that affiliate's traffic, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I always say is, we were doing this thing with, we would vet all of our affiliates through LinkedIn, and the picture popped up. So we want to make sure they have a picture of themselves, that they're not, just quick profiles to put together. And this is a pretty sad story, but I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like 10 years ago, I want to say, there was a young girl doing a cyclist tour in Hawaii, and she fell off the mountain and died.
Wow.
And she was like 23 years old, like young girl. And so when the picture popped up and my affiliate manager was looking at it, he recognized the photo. He's like, wait a second, I know this picture. So he did a Google reverse lookup of the picture to find the article of the crash. And he's like, I knew I recognized the picture. The affiliate had stolen their identity for LinkedIn purposes and posted it. So when you get the picture online, get your affiliates on a Zoom call or Teams
100%.
call, and just go face to face. Make sure the faces match up. Make sure they're willing to share their camera. Make sure you feel good about the call after the fact. That's you really want to over vet your affiliates to be on the safe side, because it starts with them. This way,
also, if you think about it, like sometimes you're spending an enormous amount of money on fixed fee placements, and you're spending it with anonymous people that aren't, like, why would you give a stranger a whole bunch of money and expect them to deliver without actually vetting who they are first? So it's kind of like, business sense. And I know it sounds like common sense, but in the throes of, getting that dream affiliate that you've always wanted to bring into your program, your kind of common sense sometimes goes out the window, and you just go, yes, I've got that deal. I'm going to close it now and bring that affiliate in. And when you skip these steps, that's when problems happen later on. So I guess the next 3 steps to overcome affiliate fraud, if you're not using a tool or automation, is sense check their traffic next.
Yeah.
Find a tool that you can use that, can look at all of that.
Follow the money, because it's going to help you get a sense of the quality of that traffic as soon as possible.
Yeah. And then I always tell affiliate managers, your second job is to be a private investigator and find out where that traffic is, find out where those partners have come from and how they are working, and if they're working with competitors, and then sense check the information to ask if it's fact or fiction. Because can you take everything that everybody tells you at face value on the internet? No, you can't. So those are 6 really good steps. But let's recap everything that we've spoken about. And then, Eleanor, we're going to come to your question. And if anybody else has questions, now's the time to pop them in, because we're coming to the end of this webinar. But I think to recap, you can scale your affiliate program without having to deal with fraud, because there are tools like Anura that are available. And you can find out more about Anura on their website. You do need to use simple steps and checks and be sensible about the partners that you're working with. You need to invest in stamping it out altogether, because as Rich said, up to 45% of the traffic that you're bringing into your program is potentially fraudulent. And I want you guys to think about, how would you use that 45% if you clawed it back? Like, where would you redeploy it and reinvest it in the partners that are sending you valuable traffic? Could you actually expand those relationships and grow your business faster? And then the most important thing is, pay for what you value and not the rest, which is going to be resent or arbitrage sold to you. And unfortunately, in our industry, we're in a place where not everything is operational in real time. There are latent periods, and so loopholes do exist. And it's about being aware of what those loopholes are and understanding how to actually stamp that out in your affiliate programs before you actually let it in. And it impacts, as you mentioned, Rich, not just your own program and your own ROI, which is the bit that you're responsible for, but the knock-on effect to your business's customer support team, the legal and compliance teams, the onboarding teams, everybody that deals with that customer after you have brought them in. Like, think about the bigger picture as well and how fraud impacts that. So, understanding how much fraud do you have, I think that's the first step after this webinar, because I like to give practical steps. Like, you've come here, you've given us 50 minutes of your time. You've listened to what Richard said about his insights into the industry. And honestly, like, I don't call him the king of fraud for nothing, as you've heard today. But let's also make sure that, you take the freebies. So Anura does offer a free trial. Can you just tell everybody a little bit about what the free trial is and how they can use it to maybe A/B test some of the traffic that they're getting in?
Yeah, they just come to our site. There's a little talk to an expert button. They just click that button, fill it out. And we basically give 2 weeks of, they can send data to us for 2 weeks. And the whole point, and we have a whole process of like 3 different phone calls and all kinds of stuff. But the goal of the test is to find out how much fraud you're dealing with and where is it coming from. And then finally, let's come up with a game plan. If it makes sense to move forward financially, let's come up with a game plan to solve that for you.
Well, I think in the first instance, taking the free trial is a no-brainer, because the first thing is it's going to show you just how much fraud you do potentially currently have. So it's going to alert you to what the problem, what the potential of the problem really is. And that then gives you the data to go and have those conversations with the C-level suite to say, if we want to scale and potentially we're looking at, this percentage of fraud, if we had to claw that money back and actually spend it on the partners where we know we're getting really good quality traffic, will this tool actually pay for itself? And I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 it would. But I really want you guys, the reason why Rich is doing this webinar with me is to help you guys to get ahead of fraud before it really impacts you, to understand what the impact of it is in the bigger economy of the space that you're working in, and to really get focused on only paying for the traffic that you want and get serious about it, because we all think fraud is somebody else's problem and it's not happening to me. But if you look at the slides earlier on, there's very clear amounts of fraud in every single channel, and affiliates work across all of them. So you've got paid keyword affiliates, you've got social media affiliates, you've got programmatic affiliates that are buying traffic and selling it to you, and charging a revenue share or a CPA fee. So let's get ahead of it, guys, and let's get control of it and not actually enable it by not looking at it and thinking it's somebody else's problem. I just want to get to Eleanor's questions, because she's got a couple here, and I love it when people ask questions. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just ask them to you, Rich. Thanks, Eleanor, for coming in. She says, can you give a few examples of fraud in e-commerce affiliate programs based on sales, not on leads?
Yeah. So there's a commercial in the US, and I'll go with that. And it's an older gentleman sitting on a little bench in the backyard with his laptop, and he holds up a credit card and he says, I'm going to purchase this dress. But when his voice comes out, it's a young girl. And he actually stole the credit card. He's going online, and the reason he does it is because he knows if he swipes that credit card, he's going to get an affiliate commission. By the time the chargeback comes back, it could take months, but they're going to get paid on that affiliate commission. And when they're smart, they They bounce that around a bunch of different ones, because again, if I do too much in one spot, they get caught. So what they're doing is they're swiping somebody else's credit card, getting the affiliate commission. At one point, they used to do like porch pirates. They would send it to a location where they knew the people weren't home because they're out working, and then they would steal it. But with Ring door cameras, that's I don't think that's happening as much. But the biggest thing is they get that affiliate commission. So I talk to companies all the time that they're watching their chargeback rate climb, even though it takes months to get back. I even had a client that was selling 30,000 airline tickets a day on their e-commerce platform. It took them upwards of 9 months to find out that it was a chargeback, on the credit card. Meanwhile, they know that if they hit that certain magical threshold, all of a sudden they're going to be now a high risk merchant. They can lose their merchant charging privileges, and it becomes a big deal. So that's an example. That's one example of e-commerce fraud.
Thank you. She's got another question here. She says, I have another one. Can Anura spot cookie stuffing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So cookie stuffing, if it takes place on a website that you control, where our software can live, yes, we can catch it, because what they're doing is manipulating data, and we can catch the manipulation. However, if it happens off-site where a code doesn't exist, and it's not just me, it's every company in the space that says we can do cookie stuffing detection. Yes, we can do cookie stuffing detection in certain situations, like where you control the page. But if it's off-site at some other location, then you can't. So it all depends. That's why it's a yes/no answer. It's a tough situation, because there was a very famous malware that Dell caught that was basically, and I forget what functionality it gave to the browser, but it was a browser extension, and it was injecting. So every time somebody went to Google and did a search for computers, laptops, hardware, and Dell comes up as a regular listing, they would alter that Dell listing to be an affiliate link. That was a style of cookie stuffing that couldn't be detected unless our software lived on Google's website.
Wow.
So that's why Google had to catch that.
There's another thing, actually, sorry, before I let you go. She says, thank you for the answers. Thank you for putting them in, Eleanor. We really enjoy receiving them. But before I let you go, Rich, there's one question that I did want to bring up with you today, and this is timely based on the news that I've read this week. There's a lot of fraud happening with APAC networks, and I didn't want to touch on it too much, but a lot of companies are looking to actually get into the APAC market, and they're leveraging affiliate networks to help them do that, because they don't have direct relationships on the ground. So how does your tool work to actually eliminate fraud coming in from sub networks that you're working with instead of just your own traffic? Is there something that Anura can do to help with that?
Yeah, because as the visitor leaves from those networks, we're able to track and pinpoint exactly where it came from, so we can decide, hey, this sub network that came to us has a 35% fraud rating. We can either block those visitors in real time and do something with that in real time, or you can use that as just a gauge to say, hey, talk to your sub affiliate and say, what's going on? I got 35% fraud coming in from your network. What are you doing to protect me from fraud? Because you're selling your traffic to me. You should be doing something to protect me. what are you doing? And right now I can see it's not enough, whatever you're doing. So it can be done. And like I said, we've been tracking with this tool and this data set, we've been tracking fraudulent activity across the entire globe for the last almost 20 years now. So we've seen, like, everyone always says, do you have to learn my traffic for a couple months? I'm like, no, there's nothing you're going to send me I haven't seen yet. Wow. However, as all that data collects and we start to identify new fraud threats that come out in small bits and change, we can fix and address that before it becomes a big issue. So.
And that's ultimately the thing, guys, is that nobody's ever fully protected, because new loopholes are being created all the time as new platforms come into play, as new traffic sources start. I mean, like, even, and this is a question just for me because I work across a number of different verticals, but what about like chat? Because a lot of people are using Telegram now. Like, can you detect fraud that's coming in from chat, like leads, or, you know, how does that work?
It all depends on how we can get integrated into the ad unit itself. So
okay.
With Telegram, I'd have to take a look at the integration. Like, I have some people that are buying, let's say, from Facebook. Facebook's not going to let me integrate directly into Facebook, right? But traffic gets sent from Facebook to my customer
to the website. Yeah.
Then we can build a communication to talk to Facebook and say, hey, here's a list of people that I don't want to work with. Stop showing my ad to them. And we can do stuff like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, it just comes down to where can we get the software integrated? Because if I can integrate the software, we can do something. If I can't integrate the software, then there's not a whole lot I can do.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up because we've taken way more of your time, but this was such an interesting subject. I also just very quickly want to ask you all to take a look at our Elevate Summit that's happening in London on the 16th and 17th of September, where you will get to meet people like Rich, who are OGs in our industry, who are coming there to teach you where performance and lead generation is going to collide in 2025, where fraud is going to become a much bigger issue and fraud management is going to become a much bigger issue. So come and join us. Go check it out on our website. And thank you so much for listening to us. And Rich, thank you so much for giving us your time today to really delve deep into a subject that most of us sort of ignore in the industry, but know that it's happening. But it's really opened my eyes into just how big this problem is. And I certainly, for one, I'm going to be signing up for the free trial to go and test some of my clients' traffic. But if you guys want the free trial, go to Anura, go check it out, sign up for the free trial, test your traffic for 2 weeks, and just get more aware of what might be happening in your program and where you can redistribute that money to better sources. So thank you so much. And to everybody that put questions in the chat, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for asking those questions, because without those questions, we don't all learn. And it's just been a pleasure to be here with you on this webinar. And thank you, Anura, for sponsoring and being here with us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.